Welcome to a Woken view of alcohol abuse and glorification. To begin this presentation, it's worth noting that it is not about the prohibition of alcohol. That would be silly. Everyone should have the right to enjoy alcohol. However, this enjoyment should not be at a cost to others in the community. There is a culture of alcohol worship in our society. It's worthwhile just looking at the basic formula of alcohol and realizing that it's nothing fantastic. Commercially produced alcohol in Australia is subject to excise duties. This may explain why the government is loath to be too critical of the alcohol industry. The highly respected Mayo Clinic has recently done studies that blow away the myth that just one or two glasses of alcohol has no detrimental effects on one's health. Whilst conceding that everyone has a right to drink alcohol, there are significant health issues that need to be considered. There are certain people in our society who just shouldn't drink, and here is a list of those people. There is a staggering number of people who have died from alcohol abuse in our society. So many items in the newspapers and on news telecasts relate to violence with alcohol as the center of the issue. One of the great tragedies in our society is the number of people that die on the roads as a direct result of alcohol consumption. Last year, 2023, 54 people lost their lives in alcohol-related crashes on New South Wales roads and 303 were injured. Almost three-quarters, 72%, of alcohol-related fatalities were on country roads. Worryingly, fatal crashes involving alcohol increased to 19% in 2020, from 16% in 2016. A recent report from Royal Life Saving Australia indicates the number of drownings in the last year. Although not explicitly mentioning alcohol's involvement, it's clear that alcohol would be a contributing factor in some of these drownings. Here is a recent example of alcohol causing death. A bouncer at a Sydney pub was king-hit by a drunk patron. This is one example of many that have occurred in recent years. Excessive alcohol consumption is also a major cause of domestic violence issues. Associated with this, excessive alcohol consumption is a contributing reason for many family breakdowns. Alcohol has also contributed to many antisocial behaviors within First Nations communities. Here are a few of the closing the gap targets and outcomes. Although not mentioned explicitly in this document, Alcohol consumption would be a contributing factor in these issues. Drink spiking is illegal, but it is still prevalent in some social groups. The world has lost many talented people who have died as a direct result of alcohol abuse. Alcoholism can be hereditary. Children of alcoholic parents can often develop similar drinking problems to their parents. Overconsumption of alcohol has affected the world of Australian politics in a number of ways. Recognised by many as one of Australia's greatest Prime Ministers, Bob Hawke was almost better known for his drinking antics, rather than his achievements such as the Accord and being influential in putting pressure on South Africa to abolish apartheid. In recent years, there have been two significant incidents. The first one involved Nationals Party representative Barnaby Joyce, who collapsed on a Canberra street one night after attending two functions. The other one is the Brittany Higgins-Bruce Learman case, where Miss Higgins alleges that Learman raped her in the office where he worked for a minister. In both cases, alcohol was a significant contributing factor. There is a culture of alcohol consumption in the background of many Australian sports. Take rugby league, for instance. The players should be admired for their brilliant athleticism, yet too many times, the sport has come under ridicule because of the off-the-field antics of some players. On television, there are shows that glorify the consumption of alcohol, for example, Drunken History. Why do we need the people presenting the show to be drunk? It makes no sense. History is just as interesting without the need for adding the layer of drunkenness. Also, the television show Front Bar interviews famous Australian sportspeople, but they are interviewed behind a bar and usually the hosts have a beer in front of them. Why is this needed? The celebrities are interesting enough without the need to add this layer. It's time to play drinking bingo. Mark off all of these that you hear when you go to a social event that involves people drinking. You will be surprised how many that you can mark off. Voice gets louder. Laughing at things that aren't funny. The next day, regrets drinking too much last night. Experimenting and talking about it, such as I put extra fluffy in my fluffy duck. Start slurring words. Saying drinking makes me better at. Blah, blah. Over sentimental. It is said I'm not that drunk. Loser's phone. Telling non-drinkers you don't know what you are missing. Post something online that is regretted later. People in a group photo holding a drink of alcohol in their hand as if it is a trophy. Making outlandishly loud noises such as woohoo. Got injured while drinking. Saying I can sober up quickly if I have to. saying I can drink and still be in control. And if you think this is taking the piss, then you would be right. Pun fully intended.
A warning to all, be careful about drink driving as the police are out checking on people. Last night I was out for a few drinks and one thing led to another and I had a few too many. Not a good idea, and knowing I was over the limit, I decided to leave the car at the pub and took a bus home. I passed the police checkpoint, where they were pulling over drivers and performing breath tests. Because I was on a bus, they just waved it past. I arrived home safely and no accidents, which was a real surprise because I have never driven a bus before.
Hopefully, you have been awoken to some of the issues about the glorification and abuse of alcohol in our society.